Welcome to the Success Pick and Mix podcast. I'm your host, Nicky Raby, a professional pick and mixer. I'm a personal brand coach, a speaker, an actor, a creator, and a podcaster. I'm on a mission to help you find and create your version of success. Your pick and mix of life and business on your terms. A blend that complements your personality, your goals, and your circumstances. Since 2018, I've been sharing interviews and mini episodes to help you unlock your next step, to make it real and make it happen. Round here, we dream big. We go for the ideal version. We talk about money and make moves our future selves would be proud of. This podcast is free and available for you whenever you need it. So do rate, review, and subscribe for new episodes. If you want to go deeper with my support, check out my freebies house and unlock the rooms you choose. nickyraby.com/freebies house. I also have workshops, programs, and one-on-one bespoke offerings. For prices and availability, go to nickyraby.com. Thank you, as always, for spending some time with me and my guests. Now, on to today's episode. In today's episode, I'm talking to Felicity Jackson, who is the founder of Surviving Actors Limited, an annual industry convention held in London, LA, and New York, aimed at jobbing actors looking to develop, sustain, and create opportunities within their career. This is so needed because as a young actor myself, I spent a lot of time wandering around with an A to Z. We didn't really have the internet either, and I'm sure I made a lot of mistakes in the early years. I wanted to talk to Felicity because since launching Surviving Actors, she's gone on and founded another company and also a contact for a huge company called Star Now for casting professionals. She's really somebody who I look to because she has that ability to really dream big, to go for what it is that she wants, and also has 2 young kids either side of my little boy and has another one on the way. So she's a real inspiration to me, and she's somebody I love to bounce ideas around with because she has a real can-do attitude. I know you'll get lots from this episode. If you want to join in the conversation, please come over to Instagram at Nicky Raby, or you can also find all the show notes on the podcast page on my website, nickyraby.com. Exciting things coming in the autumn for my coaching packages. So have a look on my coaching page. You may be at a point where you need a bit of help with pricing or moving forward or going to the next level, making your career work around your lifestyle. All of that kind of good stuff. Have a look. There's loads of testimonials and ways in which I work. So see what you think. Okay, that's enough from me. Let's get into the episode. Hi, Felicity. How are you?
Hi, Nicky. I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. Welcome to the podcast. Can you just start by introducing yourself and tell us a bit more about you and your business?
Yes. So my name's Felicity, and I have 3 small businesses called Surviving Actors, Actors Pro Expo, and Casting Days, which are all businesses which are within the arts and support actors.
Wow. And also you've got 2 kids as well, so life is busy.
Yeah, 2 children and 1 on the way.
Wowzers. Not that these kids make any money. It's about time they did a decent amount of work. So how did your entrepreneurial journey start?
Okay, so my first step was Surviving Actors. So that's my original business. And it basically started where I was doing some promo at a freshers fair for a discount card. And I was selling these cards to students where they'd get a discount for their student years. And I was looking around and I was thinking, this would actually be quite cool for actors to have some sort of freshers fair. So I didn't really come up with the idea of a business. I just came up with the idea of an event. So I booked a venue for my first event and then literally just got on the phone and started selling booths for it because it was a trade show. So yeah, that's where it started really. It kind of just started with the idea of an event and then from there it sort of escalated.
Oh, and it's escalated to huge proportions now. Like it's wild. I've spoken at them and also attended them as well. And you're the leading people in your field. It's amazing and so needed for actors, because basically I was sent out of drama school with an A to Z and a chocolate bar and good luck. Get yourself out there. Let's go back on sort of like getting people to invest in your idea, because I think it's because you were really young when you started as well. I think sometimes we can feel like there's one thing sort of sitting around the dining room table with, your parents or, brothers or sisters or mates over a couple of glasses of wine, but actually taking that from, I kind of think that I could do this, to actually doing it. How did you do that? And how did you get people how did you convince them, I guess? How did you get people on board?
Yeah, so I think that my age was one of the best things about it, because I was fearless and I was ringing people without a website, without a proper email address, just with a Hotmail account. And I had one Hotmail account for me and then one for my fake secretary that I used to email from as well, just so that people would think.
Very busy.
It was, because I'm so busy. And I would send a small amount of emails, but I was basically just phone bashing, ringing companies, telling them about the event. And I think I just targeted as many companies as I could that I thought would be the right type and the right fit for the event.
Yeah.
I didn't try to make money on the first event. We actually did break even, which was great, but I didn't try to kind of make a massive profit. I just wanted to put on a really good event and see whether or not it could be something.
Yes.
But I think my age was the best thing, because I signed a contract on the venue and I had about 50p in my account. So I don't know what my plan was if I hadn't have sold any stands.
Like the biggest party of all time for you.
Yeah, I just sort
come
of
to
thought,
this hotel conference room, guys.
It will be fine. And I think that as you get older, the fear can take over a lot more.
Totally. I was just going to ask, actually, how do you cold call people? I know it's such an obvious thing, but I think lots of people have that real fear that somebody's immediately going to say, no, bog off, and, or kind of tell them off or something for phoning. Or I guess there are some people that can take all day plucking up the courage to make a phone call. How do you sell that idea in the limited amount of time that you have?
Yes, I think cold calls can be really difficult. I think making sure that you've got a really good pitch, which is really quick and easy to understand.
Yeah.
And then also mimicking the person on the phone. So if they are mega fast talking, then you need to match that tone and be mega fast talking. And if they're Mr. Chill on the phone and they're super relaxed, then to kind of have that relaxed vibe as well. I try not to say, is this a good time to talk? Because it's just a really easy get out for them.
Yeah.
They always say no. But if I find that they're being a bit rude on the phone or a bit standoffish, then I'll say to them, is there a better time that I could call you back? But I try my best just to go straight in with the conversation, because I think that the worst thing you can say on a cold call is this a good time to talk? Because when people call me, from O2 or wherever, and they say, is this a good time to talk? I'm like, oh, no, it's not at all.
Yeah, because what are you selling me? What do you need from me? And
And then I often give them a time that I know I can't pick up the phone, so that it will just go to voicemail.
Ooh. Yes, so, I'm available at 4 a.m.
Yes.
Do call me and we'll have a chat maybe at some point.
But so many times when I've been cold called and they've just got on with it, I've actually gone with whatever offer they'd given me because they haven't given me an opt-out. So, I think kind of having a really quick pitch, mimicking the person that you speak to so that they can identify with you a bit more, and trying to just get on with it and not give them an out by saying, is now a good time to talk?
Definitely. How have you grown so quickly? Because, I think sometimes we can have this feeling that to build a successful business takes 50 years, and then you're sitting in your, velvet chair looking out at the ocean, and then you have these kind of conversations. But, you've made huge progress, and also being able to open other companies and things like that. How have you done that? What sort of tools have really accelerated you?
I think that when I first set up, I wasn't scared to do lots of other jobs to keep paying the bills.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of promo. I'd be flyering in the evenings and in my bedroom on the phone, working on the business during the day. So it wasn't where I kind of had a feeling like, oh, I now run a business, so I couldn't possibly work in a bar, or I couldn't possibly do flyering. Again, age helps with that as well.
Yeah.
And I also think that I have made some good choices with, I hired somebody who was really great for the business about 2 years in, which was brilliant. And she's been such a huge part of the success. And so meeting her and going with my gut about, making an investment in having somebody to help me was really great as well. So not being greedy with the money, so not being like, when we start making a profit, I don't want to hire anyone because I just want to keep all the profit for myself.
Yes.
But actually hiring somebody, and which worked out really well, was a huge part of the success.
How did you know when it was the right time to hire? Because I think I know when I've had people who have worked with me, I waited way too long. I waited until that moment when I was, sobbing or sitting on the living room floor and kind of having a toddler moment, and Matt having to go, okay, right, you need to sit on the sofa and you need to do this. Because I think this is the thing, especially if it's your idea and it's your baby to a certain extent, you know how to do everything. It can be quite hard to let go.
Oh, totally. The letting go bit was so difficult. I can still remember her first phone call to somebody, and I just sat there, like my toes were scrunching up, and I had to stop myself because it would be very rude for me to kind of be whispering and writing bits on a paper and handing it to her to make sure she says.
Oh, totally.
And so, the letting go bit was really, really difficult. And before she came on board, I genuinely believed that people were buying into the business for me, and it was all about me. But then when I hired her and I realised that people were still booking stands and still getting involved, I was like, okay, this is bigger than me. It's not just that people like me and so they're buying a stand. They actually do want to do the event.
Interesting, yeah.
So, I think that was... that was really hard to let go, but really important to let go as well. And she brought some totally different skills to what I had, which was brilliant. And so, and there's lots of things that she's better at me with and things that I'm better than her with. So it was, it's a good relationship. And knowing when to hire somebody was, there just wasn't ever really a right time at all. And I wasn't really sure how I was going to pay her, but I just kind of took a punt and went for it. Again, probably just being young and naive, and not worrying too much about how I'm going to pay all the invoices at the end of the month.
Yeah, quite. And sometimes I think that's the thing, that you have to be able to pivot, as Ross from Friends would say. But I've had moments suddenly where I've had to, even though I'm a huge fan of goal setting because I'm a coach, sometimes you have to go with the flow a little bit and go, I've got to switch focus here. My attention needs to be elsewhere. And otherwise, if I don't, this opportunity is going to be swept away from me. Or when sometimes people say, can I have this over to me by the end of the day? And you're thinking, oh, but I've actually figured out what I'm doing this afternoon. Sometimes you just have to go for it and not be too connected to it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think letting go of things which you've worked out, they're working, somebody else can take over, gives you the time and the brain space to be able to think about the next move.
Yes.
And think about the bigger picture. And being too bogged down in the constant logistics and running of the business is not always the best thing, because it just, you can't always have that kind of bigger overview.
No, and I think that kind of clarity of thought, like we were just talking before we came on the call, like I go, I've danced a lot in my life, but I haven't really exercised, in depth recently. And I went for a walk / bit of a slow jog this morning, and it's just given me my brain works, and not that it doesn't usually, but I can just feel the difference. And I think just having that, it's not necessarily the number of hours that you spend sitting at your laptop that brings the most productive version of you.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I've definitely learned that since having children. I can't believe I used to work 5 days a week full time. I don't know what I was doing with all those hours, because I genuinely, I think back and I'm like, what was I doing with all of that time? Whereas now I have such a smaller amount of time, because I only work when I have childcare. So I have such a smaller amount of time that I'm so much more productive. And it's not about whether or not I have 12 hours or 6 hours. It's just about what I'm getting done.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree. It's not about the hours that you put in at all. It's about being productive and just getting on with it.
And just having that focus of is this going to make me money? And I said it on the podcast before that when I was pregnant, I thought future-proofing my business during pregnancy was making sure everything was lined up on my website and tweaking the font or making a new version of graphics or whatever. And it's just it really isn't, because nobody's ever said, gosh, I love the way that you've left that spacing between paragraphs. Nobody's ever said it. Nobody's interested. How do you go about logistically without losing your mind of actually putting on an event of those kind of scales? So if people haven't come before, can you just describe it a little bit of what it actually looks like? And maybe if you could do it in an X Factor voice, that would be great. 5 rooms, 4,000 people. Yeah. What does it look like?
It's a 5-star hotel, 2,500 people. No,
and all the speakers come in helicopters. Can we do that next year? That would be great.
So where we're at now, we've been at that venue for the last 5 years. So we use a hotel in Marylebone, and we have around 2,500 people that attend the expo. We have 45 exhibitors, which are all in the ballroom. And then on the same floor, there are 4 different rooms, breakout rooms, which are used for seminars and workshops. And then we have 4 different, much smaller rooms that we use for open castings and career mentors. So it's basically a huge space. It's free for actors to attend the event, and it's basically a huge space for actors to meet with companies that can support their careers and network with other people and industry professionals and all of those kind of things. Wow. So that's what it is.
And how do you what's your first, I guess it's a tried and tested method now, so you're sort of not starting from scratch. You when you sit down at the beginning of planning the next one, you're sort of saying, well, we're never doing that again, or we need more of this or whatever. Yeah. And I think I speak to so many women who, we are in this brilliant time of conversation about let's get more women into work, on boards, having conversation, really lifting each other up. And a lot of people I speak to, they just say, I would love to have a group of women who meet up or put on an event. What's the first thing that you need to do in order to actually make that work?
Well, I think that it really helps if you are putting on something for people that you really know. So, I trained at drama school, and I trained as an actress. The girl that I hired is an actress. And so that world of actors, we just really know.
Yes.
And people have said to me loads of times, like, oh, why don't you do an event for this field or that field? And I'm like, I just don't, it's not my world. I don't know them. And I'm sure I would be making about 100 times more money if I did not work in the field that I work in.
Yes.
Because it's the arts and we're tapping into marketing budgets. So it's literally the worst of both worlds. But it's our world and that's what we know. And so when it comes to booking speakers and organising the programme and exhibitors, you know, there are people. We know who we're talking to. We know what they want. So I think knowing the audience and knowing what they're going to want is really, really important. But it is a difficult one. It's difficult to balance what people want in terms of the visitors versus also being able to make a profit and financially be able to make it work as well.
Yes.
Because sometimes we get, you know, really great emails from actors after the events with constructive feedback about things that they wish that we could do. And we wish that we could do those things as well, you know, but it's, you know, if they could give us a nice sponsor that could help with that, then we could do it. But, you know, it's about getting a balance between making sure people are happy with attending the event and putting on something really useful, but also making sure that our exhibitors and our sponsors are happy as well, and just making sure that you're kind of balancing both worlds.
Yes. How has it changed in terms of your business life since having kids? Because I remember speaking at an event and I think you just had your eldest. So you were at that point of going, so the event's booked, so I kind of have to be here, but also I've just had the baby. So let's go with this. How do you get your head around that?
So I think that the week of the events is quite difficult with children, and to be honest with you, I think why I found having my second easier was because I had a good setup with childcare, and I trusted our nanny and I trusted the nursery that my eldest was at, so all of that was already set up. So I think just having a good plan in place of who is picking who up at what time, and you know, who's looking after what child. And sometimes, you know, with childcare, if I know people who I think, they're a bit flaky, and so I'm like, right, I'm not going to ask them. I'm just going to pay for an ad hoc day at nursery because you know, I know that they're not going to cancel on me. I know that they can go there from 8 till 6 and I know they're going to be happy. So, you know, sometimes just throwing a bit of money at the situation to make the event easier helps. But yeah, it is hard. I think it was last year. Actually, no, sorry, it might have been the year before. I was at the event and I was breastfeeding, and at the end of the event, people kept giving me hugs. And it was like I hadn't fed all day, and I told myself I'd pump, I didn't, and it was literally like people were cuddling me, saying like, "Oh, thank you for everything, bye."
Oh God, that's so painful
every time. And I was thinking, if one more person hugs me, I'm going to literally burst on them.
Oh God, I remember going to a wedding and sort of again, it's in a marquee in the middle of nowhere, so there was no sort of option. And then of course all those and I don't think I'd been drinking, or I was maybe just done by 9 o'clock or something. And then all those music. Those tunes come on where everybody wants to have their arms around you doing, we gotta hold on to one. And I'm going, please don't squeeze me. What are you doing? But I think I had to have a cry at some point. I'm sure of it, in fact. And how have you broken out into international markets and sort of worked out those logistics of growing the business on an international level?
Yeah, so So with Surviving Actors, the event, we decided that we wanted to do it in New York because we decided
they wanted to go shopping.
Yeah, we were like, they speak English. It would be a great place to go every year.
Yeah.
And we felt like culturally New Yorkers and Londoners had a lot in common, and we also felt like New York people could walk, whereas with LA we were a bit kind of had no idea where we'd even do it. So we went for New York, and to be honest with you, our first step was we just went there for a week to do like a recce, and we just had loads of meetings with people. And it was all a bit of a dream at that point. It was kind of like, oh, we could possibly do an event in New York. And then we sat on the flight on the way home from New York, really excited. And we were like, yes, we are. We're going to do this. We definitely think it will work over there. So our first step was a recce, which was great fun, where we met with so many people, and it was really easy to get meetings. People were so responsive, and we just came back with like loads and loads of notes of what people would want. At the time, there was another event which was really similar, which was on called Actorfest, which was run by a very big company called Backstage. And so people knew what we were talking about. And so that's why I always say, like, competitors are not a bad thing, because it means that people already kind of know what you're offering.
Yes.
And even though you don't want to say to them, oh, it's the same as Actorfest, because it's not the same at all. But when you say it's a trade show, it's an expo, they're going to know what you're talking about. And so we went and did that trip. But what we didn't do on that trip was find a venue. So we're on the flight on the way home, and we're like, oh, this is amazing, we're going to do it. And then we're like, we haven't got a venue.
Yeah. Oh, no.
So we literally got home and booked another flight for the next month and went back again.
Wow.
And found a venue. It was one of those things where we were like, that was so stupid, but oh well. That was pre-children, so we got 2 trips to New York. And so we again, that was all a bit actually the logistics of doing business in America has been quite difficult, because I basically worked all out by myself using Google in terms of how to set up an LLC and how to do tax returns over there and all of that kind of thing. So that was quite difficult, and there was quite a lot of red tape. And by the time we did our first event, I wasn't legal to do anything over there. But I did have with me at the event, because I decided that there was going to be like police or something that would turn up and tell me off, which obviously didn't happen. But I had a folder with kind of everything that I'd done to set the business up, and all of the hurdles that I was waiting to hear back from people about, and all of the registration that I was trying to do. So I had all of that with me, and I just decided that if anybody came and told me off, I'd have all of that, and it would show intention, and hopefully I would get away with it. And then a few months later, I'd kind of got everything, all my ducks in a row, and I'd found an accountant, and I'd registered as an LLC, and I'd done all of the things that I thought were right. In terms of the business, it was quite hard work to get over all the red tape. But in terms of actually running the event, it was really similar to London, so that wasn't too difficult.
And certainly about the way that you talk about it, it's very, in terms of like going, we've done this in London and we'd like to do it here. Having that tried and tested method of like, we've actually cracked it here and then we'll move on to the same thing. I think that's a really valid point, because sometimes everybody's trying to do all the things at the same time. And, like when you play Ludo, you've almost got to get one of the little counters moving and shaking before you, because if they're all just sort of hanging around and not growing and not moving forward, you're just not building that momentum for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at a lot of event companies, and there seems to be two types. There's event companies that do a variety of different events, usually in the same area, whether that's London or UK, or you have event companies that have an event and then do it in multiple different cities. And I remember really making that choice, where I was like, am I going to do more events in London for different industries, or am I going to have this event and then move it around to different locations? And I don't know if I made the right choice. You know, I could be sat here if I'd decided to do multiple events in London for different industries, and that could have worked. But for some reason, it just felt right to do my event and do it in different locations, and to bring our expertise. And culturally, everywhere is different, so you can't do exactly the same thing. But we found that it is, we quite enjoy the way that we're doing it.
Yeah, and I think that giving yourself permission to just try it and go for it. And if you like draw a line under doing it once and you go, oh, we're not going to do that again, that's okay as well. That you always get rewarded for making some choices and moving forward and branching out.
Oh, absolutely. You know, we've definitely made mistakes, and we've tried things that haven't worked. You know, I could list them all out, you know, so we've definitely tried things and they haven't worked. And I've looked at those things and thought, okay, tried it, didn't work, move on. And so, yeah, it would be, I think it's very rare that you meet anybody that everything that they've tried with their business has worked. But obviously the things that you can find online and you read about are usually the things that have worked. But behind that are a million other things that haven't worked.
Oh, and a lot of ugly cries and moments of going, oh, I just don't know, or, you know, or huge absolute humdingers of mistakes. And, but you always gain, I mean, I guess it sounds a bit self-development-y to go, there's always a lesson, you know, but I really think there is. And sometimes just by thinking about stuff, you actually don't learn the lesson. You have to do it and then go, okay, that's what it feels like, and this is why, and all of that. In terms of because like me, you trained as an actor, what's really helped your own business journey, and that sort of, the fact that you're not saying like, there's never anything sort of apologetic about you of sort of like, oh, I was this and now I'm doing that, you know, I've always known you in that business capacity. What's really helped you move forward?
Well, my drama school training was really brilliant for everything that I do, and I found that the skills have been really transferable. I pretty much realised in my second year of drama school that I didn't think I was going to be an actor, and I was in a black cab and I was feeling a bit down about everything, and I obviously told the driver all of my woes. And I was like 19 at the time, and the driver told me that he trained at RADA.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, really? And he was like, yeah, I trained at RADA. Yeah, I absolutely loved it. It was brilliant, blah, blah, blah. And then told me all about his life, and he'd done all of these really cool things, and he'd never been an actor. So I was like, oh, did you do your whole course? And he was like, yeah, of course. And I was like, oh, okay, so I can do this whole course and then not go on to be an actress. Okay.
I'm going to be a cabbie.
Yeah. And it was a really, really good cab journey. And I wish I could find that man and tell him that he stopped me from kind of dropping out. And I've found that the skills that I learned at drama school have been so transferable, massively in terms of dealing with a variety of different types of people. Acting and sales go hand in hand, so that is that's worked really well. Improvisation has been brilliant, because being able to improvise on the phone when somebody asks you a difficult question, or face to face at the event, and so all of those things I found really useful. And I people always say to me, oh, would you want your children to go to drama school? And I'm like, well, no, I don't really want them to go down the route of being an actor. But if they really wanted to, then of course I would encourage them, because at the end of the day, just because you go to drama school doesn't mean that you have to be an actor.
No. And also, if my mum had said, do you know what, I think that maybe this is not the thing, like at 17, 18, or even like 4 or 5, there was really no stopping me. I mean, they only had one rule, that I wasn't allowed to go 16, which is what I wanted to do. I wanted to leave home. And they, even my dad said, I loved his logic, like, you can't even get into a pub. And I was like, well, turns out, Dad, I have been going into pubs for a little while, and it's not stopped me up until this point. But I think they had that terror of like, oh my goodness, they're 16-year-old living in London. It felt like, too early. But I think sometimes if you know that you've got that path, that it always, or that passion for something, it always comes back around in a weird and wonderful way. And I have it with coaching clients sometimes, where maybe somebody restricted them at an early stage, and now they go, why did I do that? Or why did I choose this path when actually I should have gone down this route?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I was doing my A-levels, my classics teacher was so passionate, and I used to think to myself, I hate classics and I'd hate to be a teacher, but whatever I do, I really want to be as passionate about it as she is, and, enjoy myself as much as that. And that has definitely been something that I've kind of taken with me. And I've had loads of ideas for the business, of things that I could do that might bring in loads of money. But I think, oh gosh, I wouldn't want to do that though. And that would be the actual logistics of doing that is something that I wouldn't want to do. And I would find really, like just a job that I wouldn't want.
Yes.
So I think being really passionate about whatever you're doing is so much more important than just making money.
Yeah, and something just feeling good for now, but almost always that sort of long-term vision as well, that what you don't want to do is close too many doors off and early on. And, I moved to London in 2000, and it was the same year that Big Brother launched. And I did know somebody actually that sort of wasn't an actor but wanted to be, and we were working in a clothes shop together in Oxford Street, and he got down to the last few, or was recalled to go on Big Brother. And there was a part of me that was like, oh, at that time of reality stars, maybe that would be the easy way to do it. But I was like, hang about, I like getting drunk in private with my friends and family. I don't want to be in a hot tub with some dude or girl that I've I don't know. I just don't want to put myself in that situation where I'm like, I'm having a great time and the country is watching.
And I think when you're self-employed, you do have the choice of what your next move is and what you do with your own career. And that is something that I'm really grateful for and that I really relish, and I don't want to take that away from myself. So being able for me to choose what I do next, and I want to make money, of course, but I also want to be really happy and to really enjoy what I do.
Yeah.
And so for me, they are both equally as important.
Absolutely. And, just be really in control and build a business that works for you as well. It's sometimes, I at this stage of the game, even when people say, oh, do a year-long coaching program or run a monthly Facebook group. And for me, I don't want to do it because I feel like it would limit me. And also there's different ways in which I can work. And I think always going back to what do I want? What am I trying to get from this business? It just helps you sort of feel really clear about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So finally, where would you like to be in 5 years' time in business and in life? I mean, you're going to have 3 under 10s by this point, aren't you?
Yes.
3 under,
5 years, I'll have 3 under 8s.
Wowzers. So you need to keep working because you'll need to feed them.
Well, I want to be able to be feeding the children.
Yeah. And they eat so much at the moment, that thing of can I have a snack? It's you've literally just eaten 2 minutes ago. What do you need now?
I mean, my son for breakfast is a monster. This morning he had over the course of about an hour and a half, he had 7 Weetabix.
Wow, good lad.
And he's like a beanpole as well. I don't know where he puts it all. And he's like, I'm hungry though, I'm hungry. So I just think, oh, okay, maybe he's hungry. I mean, he eats a lot, especially I've got 2 boys. If I have another boy and they all have an appetite like him, then yeah, I'm going to need to do some extra hours.
I was saying that to someone the other day, that like where my mum used to do a shop, my brother would just take the chunk of cheese that she'd purchased and like start hacking at it, and my mum was like, oh, that's sort of for everybody for the week. This is not like a one meal situation. But yeah, we always had a very open house, and my brother would always rock up with 2 or 3 friends, so I'm sure my mum was feeding half the village.
So yeah, in 5 years so one thing which I really want to be able to do is the school drop off and pick up.
Yeah.
To be able to have the business at the point where I can work 5 days a week, 9 till 3. That's really important to me. And I didn't take much maternity leave at all. And I've basically been building the business to get to the point where I can do a 9 till 3 role so that I can do that drop off and pick up. So that's really important to me. I'd love to be able to be doing a bit less of the menial tasks, which I seem to get myself bogged down with now.
Yes.
So I'd love to be able to be bringing in a bit more money in order to hire. I feel like I just need one more person, although I spoke to someone recently that said you always feel like you need one more person. So,
and then on the days where you're just like chasing your tail or things are crazy busy, you're like, oh, actually I need 14 more people because this is madness.
Yeah. So I'd love in 5 years' time to have hired one more person who is doing some of the tasks that I'm doing at the moment, which would be great. And then I would love to have possibly gone into more cities with our event, would be great. But we'll see what happens.
So exciting. And how are you sort of preparing for the next Bubba, and sort of have you thought about kind of how you're going to work it? I kind of ask because I think sometimes as well, certainly with Instagram and things, there's this pressure to go, so I've had the baby and this is day 5, and I actually stopped following somebody the other day because she was going to somewhere fancy, like a business situation, on like day 3, and I just thought, I can't. Like, it was obviously a trigger in me because I was like, it took me a long time to feel vaguely normal, and maybe I'm still not quite there yet.
Yeah, do you know what? I think it's really because I haven't really taken maternity leave with my 2 children, and it's been it's really difficult because some people have a reaction where they're a bit like, oh, wow, you must be like a super mum. How could you do that? Yeah. But that actually makes me feel really bad because I'm like, well, and then I start kind of apologising for it, where I'm like, well, I did, I did work from home, and I did have somebody come and help, and, and everybody's situation is just completely different. And
totally. Well, I was the same. I did a talk at a top university when Oscar was 3 weeks old, and there was part of me going, oh my goodness, this like feels a bit crazy, but also I know that my work really lights me up, and I love it. And also there's not really an option for me not to work as well. It's sort of, emails still keep coming through, things keep happening, my business keeps moving. So I can't just say, oh, see you guys, I'll see you in a couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. And someone made a comment to me once, which really pissed me off, where they basically said, do you think it would have been better to have children when you got your business to a point where you didn't need to be doing so much?
Wow.
And I was like, no, because I wouldn't want to put having children on hold for that, because who knows if that would ever happen. And actually having children has pushed me so much more within my business to make it a success, and to do all of that's been an important part of it. So, you know, for me, I always do things way too early. So I always do things roughly a year before I'm probably ready to actually do it. That's kind of my thing in business, with children, everything. And doing it before you're ready, for me, has always worked.
I think you're so right, though, because I feel like when people, and I'm sure it's probably her own parameters of how she works, when people say, when I've lost that half a stone, that pesky half a stone that's always lurking around, I'll do my photo shoot, or when I feel like I've got another couple of credits, or until I've got so many subscribers or whatever. And it's just one thing I've really learned is that once you put your mindset in place, so whether it's, you know, making an investment and you need some money to come your way, once you set an intention, and this is not a woo-woo thing, this is like, okay, how do I actually make this happen? It happens really quickly when you're not vague anymore.
Yes, it's so true. And my husband has a commission-based job, and he'll always, like the other day, we've needed a log burner for ages, and he ordered this log burner, and I was like, okay, are we going to be all right for that? And he was like, yeah, once it's ordered, I know I'll get a deal in.
Yeah.
That's such a good way to kind of be, because he was like, yeah, let's get it ordered and then I'll definitely get the deal in. And I know what he's like. He'll make it happen, and it will work, because he definitely has that mindset where he's like, you've got to put yourself in, you know, not obviously ridiculous situations.
You've got to sell one of the kids.
Yeah. You need to put yourself out there a bit, put yourself under a bit of pressure to make things happen.
Because otherwise there's so many potential distractions of, oh, I'll do it next week, or this is like taking my time, and actually you've got to get the wheels in motion.
Yeah, absolutely. And that does work for some people. You know, I've got loads of friends who are much more kind of level-headed than me, and probably make very stable life choices about kind of when they do things, and that really works for them, and that's great. But for me, it really works to kind of just go with my gut and just do something, and then make up a plan afterwards.
Sounds good. Yeah. So when's the log burner coming?
God knows. I think in a couple of weeks. I mean, it's a heat wave in July. Apparently, we're discussing log burners. I
was going to say, snuggle up, get your fleecy jimmy jams on, and it'll be great.
So, yeah, God knows. That's something that I'm just leaving to him.
Yeah, it is one of those things where you're like, no, can't really discuss this. This will be fine. Because they want to chat, don't they? These men, after they've had kids, they want to chat about everything. Because I guess that's what you do about pregnancy. It's like, no, you can just make the decision and go forward. If people want to find out more about Surviving Actors and all the other businesses and things that you have, where should they go?
Well, my websites are survivingactors.com, actorsproexpo.com and castingdays.com, and we're also on all of the social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. So, they're probably the best places.
Brilliant. Excellent. And also as well, if you're listening to this and you feel like you could be a sponsor, or, you know, you want to get involved in the event, like, get in touch with Felicity. There could be a beautiful partnership cooking.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Felicity needs a log burner. Quick, come on.
Someone get me a sponsorship deal.
I need a kitchen island. I need this. Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, write your wish list. I've started doing that, actually, going, I know the perfect leather jacket that I want to buy, but it's quite a chunky investment. So I'm just like, no, I'm going to leave it there. And then when that next thing comes in, then, you know, it will be a little treat for Nicky. That would be nice.
Leather jacket is a great investment.
Yes, and it's wipe clean, and I'm talking with children there, so There we go. That's a story for another time. Anyway, thank you so much for being on the podcast, and I will speak to you soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks very much.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. If you haven't already, feel free to rate, review, and subscribe for all the brand new episodes. If you want to go deeper with my support, check out my freebies house and unlock the rooms you choose. NickyRaby.com/freebies house. I also have workshops, programs, and one-on-one bespoke offerings. For prices, availability, or just to have a chat with me, go to nickyraby.com. Thank you, as always, for spending some time with me and my guests, and I'll see you next time.